Pablo.
Good morning, Mr. Paul Reed Smith.
How you doing, Paul?
Is it story time?
Make me get dressed up in my own house.
Hey, man, can you hear me?
How you doing, Paul?
Hey, what's happening, man?
Hey, what's up?
How are you, man? Are you okay?
And that is a ridiculous piece of wood.
Hello.
Hi, Eric.
Boo!
Hey, what's up?
Hi, man.
Hey,
Are you okay?
I'm, for after a year of, I don't know what the heck I'm doing, I'm still hanging in there.
You're not alone.
God, really? Well, have y'all been playing any shows at all?
No.
Okay.
No, I got word that at the end of the year, we're going to attempt it. So that's good, but I'm not going to bank on it.
Yeah.
In theory, it'll be good enough so that we can play live. How are you, man? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I just spent the year kind of working on recordings.
Yeah.
Got like about 20 something songs I've been doing.
Oh, good.
I keep doing more and more stuff. It's like, well, I can't go on the road, so I'll just keep recording.
Yeah. Well, I spent a year not being a rock star.
Oh, really?
And I got to know who that guy is.
Oh, that's good. You look healthy, man. You look great.
Yeah. And having a year to look at everything, I think I've got some ideas about how to do stuff for the time I have left.
Yeah.
So that's one good thing. The other thing was I just watched TV and ate cookies for a year, but
that's good.
yeah. I can't wait to hear your new stuff. And you talk to Paul, and I love you, and I think about you a lot.
Do you still have that? Do you still have that 50-watt Marshall that your wife bought you for the present?
Yes, I do.
Does it sound good still?
Yes, it does.
Oh, good. Okay.
Eric, do you covet Joe's amp?
Oh, well, Joe's wife, they were in Austin rehearsing, and she was like, can you find me a Plexi Marshall to give Joe for his birthday? And so we found a friend of mine had a 68 Plexi 50-watt for sale.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
The Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Yeah, I collect Eric's reject Marshalls.
And as well as find other ones, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Joe. Thank you so much for being on.
All right.
We had
Good
a really
to see
nice
you, buddy.
See you, Joe. Good
All the
luck,
best.
Man. All right.
Yeah.
Glad you're doing well.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Am I leaning over too much, or is it okay?
No, it's perfect.
Okay.
He told us how he recorded the solos in Hotel California. I think it's the first time he's ever said. He said which parts were worked out, which parts were spontaneous, how they did it, how they recorded the guitars, what kind of mics they used, everything.
Oh, wow.
I never heard him tell the story. I feel like I just got to listen to a holy grail. It was really cool. So Eric, I have something to show you. I've saved it all day for you.
Oh boy, okay.
You see this, Eric? That
Wow, what is
the mold for the wire for all pickups in 1959 for Fender and Gibson. That is the mold that made the wire.
Oh, wow.
I have it in my pocket.
Oh, that's great. Have you tried it yet?
We've been making wire with it.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm going to put it back in my pocket.
Yeah,
So basically, they take this copper and they draw it down. And this magic that was in these old pickups, as far as I can tell, is all in the wire, somewhat in the magnets, but mostly in the wire and the coating. And it all starts with that. And I've been asking for that mold for 4 years because I heard from the grandson of the guy that made them that I could get my hands on the old one. And I've been saying, you got to send me the mold, send me the mold. He goes, oh, I sent it. No, you didn't. No. So today I got a package that, well, here it is. And I opened it up and I went, no kidding.
Oh my God.
So the 59 Les Paul wire and your Strat wire, it's all came out of that mold.
Same place made all that stuff, huh?
Huh?
The same place made all that wire.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's the same color.
Interesting. That's amazing.
Isn't that great? I have. If you remember when I showed you the Fender books of all the things from the original Fender factory and how they made them and everything?
Yeah.
One day I want to walk up to you and hand you this mold so you can hold it. I said, what am I going to do with it? Put it in a light box? What am I going to do with it? I said, I'm going to keep it in my pocket and show people.
Yeah, totally. Blow their mind.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I thought it was going to be much bigger. I thought it was going to be big, like a big thing. I didn't think it was going to be so small.
Yeah, that's crazy. I wouldn't have thought that either.
Yeah.
Are you in your control room right now?
I am in my studio. Yes, sir.
Oh, that's awesome. I see some great.
Yeah, there's a Gates back here. I got an old Motown EQ, a whole bunch of LA2As. There's a Fairchild in here.
Wow.
Mastering lab, bunch of RCA mic pre's, EMP and Lexicon reverbs. I've been busy boy since I had to sell it all in 2009 to pay my bills.
Oh, that's great, man.
You'd like this place.
Yeah, really.
You know what this is?
A lexicon, right?
But that's an X. That's the Queen and Peter Gabriel So reverb.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
I'm sorry, I like this stuff. You know I like
you
this
can't
stuff.
beat it. You can't beat it.
You know I like this stuff. So listen, I got questions for you and you got questions for me. You up for it?
You bet.
All right, so let's start with the first question. We've been asking everybody this very straightforward question, but the answers have been very interesting. What's the most interesting thing for you in the room that you're in? Item.
Probably this picture of B.B. King behind me.
Yeah. So how'd you get it? What is it?
Which he signed and stuff. Oh, from when I did a tour with him and got to know him a little bit. And he gave me a watch too, but it was that has B.B. King on it.
The heavy?
He was one of the most gracious, beautiful, humble cats I ever toured with. And he really left an impression on me just as a person. So he was so gracious and polite to everybody. He talked to everybody. His tour bus would stay to the very last person that wanted an autograph or wanted to talk to him. He'd be there after they had put the PA and the gear all away, and he would still be there waiting to talk to anybody that wanted to talk to him. And
unbelievable.
Never refused anybody. And I've told people before that he gave me probably some of the best advice I ever got from a musician I respected. He told me once, he says, you can do this, you can do that, but he says, try to find that sweet spot within yourself, that place of artistic empowerment where you do something and you shine your gift that's unique to the world. That the one thing that you do, try to put that signature, let that permeate through whatever you do, that signature that you do that nobody else can do. Because you can always do stuff other people. Everybody has a certain unique footprint of artistic ability, and paying an honor system to that God-given gift, to put that in no matter what you do, it really it shines your talent in a place from empowerment. And when he told me that, I didn't quite. I kind of understood it, but I didn't understand it on a cellular level till years later. I finally. It kind of, it took years for me to go how important what he said is.
Actually, when you say it, he was good at that. He would stay in his sweet spot, always stay in his sweet spot.
Exactly. Yeah. And I remember in his tour bus, he'd play all this Lonnie Johnson and all this other kind of stuff. He could play all this other stuff, but he's like, he'd stay in his sweet spot of what his unique sweet spot. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a question I wanted to ask you is, because I know you started in bands. You started playing music in bands, right? At what point did you feel the calling to get interested in becoming an inventor and making guitars and amps and stuff? When did the fork in the road open up for you to do that musical thing?
If I went to a music store, say Washington Music in Wheaton, Maryland, and I played, everybody would run away. If I opened a case of something I made, it would draw a crowd. And I had to pay attention to that feedback of the world, Eric. I I didn't want to be. I wanted to be a guitar player, but I'm sorry, Jeff Beck was doing stuff I just didn't understand, and um, so. But the guitars were easy for me, although it has taken me up until I'm 65 now. The guitars are just getting to the point where Joe Walsh is using them, and all these other people are coming out of the woodwork. There was a 30-year period where John McLaughlin, I wasn't a good enough guitar maker for make a guitar, but when I got good enough, he goes, well, maybe son, maybe now you're good enough, and then maybe I'll let you make me a guitar. So for me, I never let go. I just keep trying to make them better and better and better and better, and chase after the things like this mold in my pocket that gets me the raw material pieces I need to be able to make pieces of gear that people like you would even think about trying. Um, you know, I really appreciate the way you approach it. You don't keep stuff around unless you're using it. You don't collect stuff. You're not a pack rat.
I think there are I think there's a beauty in collecting, I guess, it keeps the stuff, in a pristine place. But I have this thing where if I own a guitar, I've got to get it to sound as good as it can or play as good as it can. Or if I own an amp, you know what I mean? It's like I won't quit working on it until it's like really dialed in. And so it's like for me to own a bunch of sports cars and like have to spend my whole life tuning the engines, because I can't just go, oh yeah, I'd tune it someday and I just own it. And yeah, so that it's better for me as an artist to not keep stuff, because it just kind of keep, there's like, if you empty a room of stuff that's at a certain frequency, if you're looking for a certain ultra higher octave, if you empty the room of the lower octave, you create a space for something loftier to come in.
I agree.
And I think it maybe not for everybody, but for me, it's just really applicable. It's like if I create that space, then I can like assign myself to some other octave,
So Eric, you and I've been around each other a lot at this point, and I've seen you play a lot. I've stood on the side of the stage of you playing a lot. When you did that Hendrix thing at the Vintage Guitar Show, if you watch the video, there are two men screaming like children in the video that you can hear screaming above the mics. That's me and Andy Timmons losing our shit on the side of the stage. I've seen you play a whole bunch, but you're a real sweetheart, but there's almost like a cutting torch energy that starts when you start playing. Do you experience it that way? Some of the stuff that you're playing has got a real intensity to it, but when you're talking, there's a real gentleness about the way you approach this conversation, whatever it is. What goes off in you when you start playing? How does it feel? I asked Rhonda Smith, how can she not tap her foot and have perfect time? She says, Paul, it feels like a piston in me. It's going up and down, boom, 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 boom. I said, where'd it come from? He says, well, I got trained by Prince. And so how do you experience it, Eric, when the beginning of Cliffs of Dover has happened and it's time to start moving? How does that? That's got to be like fireballs going off, like a cutting torch, right?
I think it's about for me to really do something at a better level, and because I have many a times when I don't quite pull it off the way I want, and if I had to simplify it, I'd say it's about being present. And it's like that we're always thinking about the past or worrying about the future. But if we trust the present, if I trust the present, just go, okay, I relax and I'm right here in the present, and just intuitively let things come as they might or as they may, instead of futurizing or thinking. If I'm thinking back about, oh, well, I remember I did this lick, let me do it now, or I'm worried, is it going to be okay a minute from now, rather than just like, and let come what may. If you trust that present, I think it's almost like, I think there's radio waves bombarding us through the universe all the time. And if we want to be part of it, we can surf that wave. And the most awesome moments are when we're still putting in our talent and our craft, but we're being in the present, to where we're allowing a moment in the present. That, those moments, they don't come. The past has already happened and the future hasn't happened. So if you're looking for those serendipitous moments, the only place you're going to find them is in the present. And the more I can be aware in the present, and the more I can let go in the present, these little engrams of infos come up. And so for me, if I hear a night where I play well, it's because I've kind of trust that present, and I just use my knowledge of music, whatever little it is or whatever, and I just let that moment happen. You know, that can, then it just means something. And but then I think you have a certain agenda in your head. You have a certain benchmark that there's a certain sound or a certain playability that you know from your own experience of where you want to hit that level of playing. You know? So it's coincided with that, I think.
The way I talk about it is that I just throw myself to the wind and trust whatever's going to happen.
Exactly.
But you're also talking about there's also a level of that tune execution that you've done so many times before. You want to at least start there, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a certain technical prerequisite to pull it off. Yeah.
hmm There's an old article about you that somebody says that you were playing a Strad, and the person was believing they didn't know about you. They were believing they were listening to a Stradivarius violin. They weren't thinking the word Strat was mispronounced. Do you think of it in violin terms? Do you think of the tone in violin terms, Eric? Because it sounds very violin sometimes.
I do, and I don't know if it's some kind of sanskara thing from some past life or what. I don't know, but I think yes, I do, and mostly because of the pure harmonic tonality of the violin.
Yeah.
But you know, there's certain reckless abandon about the guitar and the fuzz and just the off the cuff and walking out on that thin tree branch to see what happens. It's so beautiful. And I think it was, I mean, I don't know if this is just me because I'm older, but I think there is a reality. There was a real valid embracement of that reckless abandon in the beginning. It's almost like the first time you walk in a studio and you do your first take, it has a magic. Or the first time, you know, they made the Strat in '54, there was a magic. But I think the same way, the first time they made some of these old tube amps, and the first time they made a fuzz, you know, and you listen to like Third Stone from the Sun and you go, my God, the fuzz tone and the sustain and the feedback, it's just at first take, you know, of the chronological era of rock and roll guitar, really embraced that reckless abandon to give it kind of it was reckless abandon. It was off the cuff, but it had a kind of a Stradivari thing to it. It was so beautiful. I mean, you listen to to me, I listen to the Beano record or you know, the fuzz sound that Hendrix got on our experience. There's a magnificent first cognitive take of, you know, oh, we just made this, let's try it out. And it's like, bam, sometimes the first take is got the beauty, you know, and
I agree.
I don't think it's just with your recording, you know, it can be with making something, you know what I mean? And something happened, but there is a connection with that, you know, the beautiful sound, the pure tonality of the violin or any instrument like that, you know, the pure tonality of Charlie Parker's sax, you know, was like pretty crazy, you know. And something about that I just find interesting, and I keep trying to pull that in. You know, there's plenty of other reasons to play guitar or other tones to get. It's definitely not the only way, but for me, I find it very fascinating to try to inculcate that into the electric guitar, you know.
So I don't hear, for me, I don't hear it as a violin I hear it more somewhere between an oboe, a bassoon, and a cello. So, but sometimes you get a bassoon kind of note, like on the C note on the A string, that just sounds like a big ass reed instrument that I just adore. And there's also an instrument called a low D whistle, which is a kind of a Scottish instrument where the people would lift their little finger off the bottom, wah, 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 you know, it's like Jeff Beck pushing the arm down, wah, wah, that I really adore, bending a note down in pitch that just gives things a real life. And you know what I'm talking about. You call it in your video, you call it sass. Yeah, a little sass to it.
Yeah, a little personality stuff.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, so yeah, and I was going to ask you, like, you remind me a lot of you. I mean, there seems to be a correlation between you and Leo Fender. I've always felt that, and I think it can be your accomplishments, but more important, it's the spirit behind the accomplishment. I just wonder, do you feel like a connection to that kind of just spirit vibe of somebody as a person, like the way, I mean, incessantly just keep trying to do something over and over, keep trying to improve something, it's like your motivation or your drive or it's the same as somebody trying to create a symphony, a piece of music where they just keep going and keep it. But it's, I mean, I don't get the vibe that it's driven by you I mean, it's nice to have the success and sell more guitars or whatever, but it seems like you're driven by trying to find that magic, that extra magic atom or something. And you keep going. And the stories I heard about Leo, that he was like that, like he just kept, he was always trying to, that was his thing. He was pursuing that art of excellence, and it was always chasing that dream,
As the story goes, he got to Harvard, and the production would start making it, and he'd change it, and then they would start making that, and he'd change it, and in that way, I'm probably a lot like him, in terms of bridge design and some of the other stuff, maybe more like Ted McCarty, but I don't feel their spirit. Let me tell you what I do feel though. If I was in the old shop and I had run out of repairs, I would get a job for making an electric guitar. If I ran out of orders for electric guitar, I'd get a bunch of repairs. If I finished a guitar on Thursday, Little Feat was in town on Friday, and I would huff my ass down there. If I finished a guitar for Carlos Santana, next day he'd be playing at Constitution Hall, and I'd huff my ass down there. It was literally like meant to be, like weirdly meant to be. Mm-hmm. I needed something, it was there. I don't know why it was that way, but I feel pushed. So I'm talking Ricky Skaggs once, and he goes, "You're very obedient." And I went, "What?" He goes, "You're obedient. You do what you're told." And he didn't mean in a kind of weak way. He meant like by other forces.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And actually, in a way, Eric, I think I've seen you go with it and fight it. I've seen me go with it and fight it. Yeah. But you know what I'm talking about, where you don't have any money and then the phone rings and you got a gig. Yeah. It happens. It's kind of weird. But so I don't feel that where I feel the guitar gods is in Japan. I go to Japan and I get chased. And I'll literally be walking down the street and something will push me in the room. And I'll walk into a store that I didn't know was there with nothing but Japanese tools for cutting wood. And I bought this knife that I could turn a block of wood into a book with. I could cut the pages with a knife like a piece of butter. I'm like looking at this thing going. And I felt pushed into the room. Wow. In Japan, I feel like I'm being taught, like, it's one of the oldest spiritual places on the planet. And the war put a kind of a division there, but I can tell you that those spirits are alive and well, and I have felt that. One of the reasons I go to the vintage guitar shows is it's the only way I can talk to the old guys. They're dead, but their guitars are going to tell you what they thought that day. You can find out what Ken Brand and Jim Marshall thought on Thursday if you find an amp they made on that Thursday. Mm-hmm. That's what they thought. Open it up. That's what they thought. Wow. And you do this too. The only way you get to talk to the old guitar makers, if they're not alive, is by holding one of their guitars.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
So I hope I answered your question. Leo used to come by the booth and pay his respects. Mm-hmm. He and the other guy would come by and, just making sure look after the new whippersnapper, right? And same thing with Ted McCarty. Just kind of kept his eye on me. So they were trying to pass the baton. I got a chance to talk to Forrest White, who was the production manager at Fender a few days before he died. The only thing he wanted to know was, Paul, how good a job did I do? How'd I do? How good a job did I do? I said, oh, Forrest, you did good. You did real good.
Yeah.
He just wanted to feel good about his life.
Well, and for that to be the propellant of why somebody does their work, it's just yeah, great. You're going to pay me for it, great, and now you're going to make the money. That's great, but I got to make sure that I want to do the best I can. And I got to walk away and feel like I got, you know what I mean? That's really. I just think that we need more people to stand up and kind of salute that thing, and that's what I meant. Kind of the what you do with your work, that's the propellant,
Well, you do that. I've seen times when you played at the bottom line where you knew you had a magic night. I don't know even how you dealt with the adoration afterwards. I mean, people were like stunned. They just saw something spiritual and you were in the middle of it. The one thing I do know about you, I caught you doing this once. I saw you come off the stage in New York and you went back in the dressing room and started practicing.
Oh, yeah, right.
Have you seen this?
Missed some lick on stage or
There was a guitar upstairs you wanted to play. Have you seen Free Solo, the guy that scampers up El Capitan without a rope?
I've heard about him.
Yeah. At the end of the movie, he goes down in his car and starts doing pull-ups on razor sharp metal. At the end of him making the trip up and doing it. It's so hairy that they start the movie with him making it so you know he's not going to die. At one point, he's underneath a cliff going sideways like a bat going across underneath. I've never seen anything like it in my life. It's the greatest athletic event I've ever seen. But it reminded me of guitar players. At one point, they interviewed him and they said, most climbers don't understand what I do. The truth is most guitar players don't really understand what you do. They don't really understand what Joe Walsh is doing. They don't really understand what John Mayer's doing in The Dead. It's actually kind of analogous, except we're not going to die. He's going to die.
Wow. Yeah, right.
Going up El Capitan without a rope is dangerous.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I've heard about that guy.
Yeah, I want to meet him. Yeah, I think he's got a lot in common with guitar players, but that's just me. So, Eric, the fact that you came on to do this is awesome. This is going to go international, and we're trying to show things to people that, sides of you and sides of me and sides of our industry that are not normally shown, and I think we've done a good job with that today. Do you have one more question for me? Are you good? I'm enjoying these questions.
I have one more question, I think. I was wondering, because you're such a seeker of tone and gear to facilitate music. Where do you see your input, and maybe on a bigger scale, where do you see the future of guitar? Like as far as where do you see that future going in the years ahead? With guitars and amps and just what will be the wind that makes people go forward, do you think, in the future?
What I want is for people to have an instrument that's a high enough level instrument that they want to get it worked on by a repairman instead of throwing it out when it's done. I don't want it to be like a TV set. When it breaks, you just throw it away. I want it to be like a Stradivarius violin that is in constant need of upkeep. And I want the instrument to help people write songs. A guitar is a harpsichord where you can change the length of the string with your hands. It's very intimate. You get to do melody, harmony, and rhythm all at the same time. You can add vibrato. And it's the violin of our time that can do a harmony. Whereas in violin, it's just more two notes at the same time if they actually go for it, right? Yeah. And I want the guitar to be the fundamental piano of our time that people are writing. My hope with COVID is that people did exactly what you did, was go home and write 20 new tunes because they got a lot of feelings and they got a lot of pent-up stuff and they need to get it out. I really want to hear this record you're working on. Is it mixed?
Well, a lot of it is, yeah, and it's partially basic tracks from years ago that I took and reworked and threw everything out and started again. So it's kind of like yesterday meets today.
Well, that's not a bad name for the CD. Look, Eric, I really enjoy listening to you play. You're one of the few people that when that thing starts to sound like a blistering Stradivarius violin, I get welled up. I love the way you play. That said, I'd like to hear the record. That said, I'm really appreciative of you being on.
My pleasure.
And if I can ever, I'm at, you know me, I'm at your service. You and Bill and I are working on something right now.
Yeah, totally. I was
I don't,
thinking later today about that.
all right. So that's fine. If you ever want to hear any of this stuff,
Oh,
um,
man.
so that wah wah pedal that you gave me as a present, Clint Lowry wants to borrow from Seven Dust, so I'm going to send it to him. So that was. So let me show you. Can I show you something?
Yeah.
One other thing.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive this is what was used
Oh,
for the
wow.
beginning of No Quarter.
Is that a Mutron?
Mutron 2 knob. You got to get one.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We use them on every session. I'm going to make the price go up from these interviews. This is not good.
Oh, man. Well,
As the story goes, this was a present to the pedal steel player after Houses of the Holy. And we plugged it in. We started screaming. We went, oh, my God, we've heard that. We've heard that. We've heard that. We searched. It's the beginning of No Quarter. The keyboard part, the Broads, you need to get one of these. Paulie like this. Paulie like this.
Better buy them all up. They're
Have you ever tried one?
I'm not that model now.
Uh-huh. I'm warning you.
Okay. That's good.
Sorry, you're a gear slut. I think you like nice gear. This thing sounds stupid. I played it for Joe Walsh. You know what he said? I wondered what made that sound.
Yeah. Oh, I'll check that out. Okay. Mutron.
It's a 2 knob.
Okay.
What's the model number? I don't even know it has a model number. All right, Eric. You're the best. Thanks for being on. I'm touched. Thanks.
Thanks for having me, man. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Okay.